In moments of tension, when someone deliberately tries to provoke you, your first response should not be to react, but to observe. Observe not just the words they use or the expressions on their face, but also the energy behind their actions. What is it that they truly want? Your anger, your loss of control, your surrender to emotional chaos? The truth is, most people who try to provoke you are not doing it consciously. They are merely acting out old emotional patterns, echoes of their own pain, fears, or unresolved wounds. A person who is truly at peace within does not seek to break the peace of others, but a soul filled with cracks and unrest often finds ways to pull others into their storm. When someone feels powerless, they seek control. When they feel invisible, they search for attention through negative means. When they are hurting, they may, consciously or not, want you to taste some of that pain too. When you realize this, when you truly see the root beneath the behavior, you gain a quiet power. You begin to understand that their behavior has nothing to do with you. It is simply a mirror reflecting the unrest within themselves. To live wisely is to refuse to become someone else's puppet. If every glance, every tone, every careless word can pull you off center, then you are not truly free. If someone else can shake your inner peace with just a few sentences, then who really holds control over your life? And so, ask yourself honestly, am I living according to my own values, or am I just a small boat drifting in the current of someone else's emotions? No one can make you angry, unless you allow them to. This may sound simple, but it holds profound truth. Life constantly puts us in situations where people insult, mock, manipulate, or provoke. But regardless of what they do, your reaction, whether calm or inflamed, is entirely your responsibility. No one can make you angry unless you allow them to. It may sound simple, but it holds a profound truth. Life throws countless challenges your way. People will insult you, mock you, manipulate you, or try to provoke a reaction. But whatever they do, your response, whether it's calmness or anger, is completely your choice. If your emotional state always depends on someone else's behavior, then you haven't yet stepped into your true power. If a careless comment can pull you out of your inner peace, then it's as if you've handed the keys to your emotional home over to a stranger. You let them enter, rearrange, and disrupt everything inside, and then wonder why you're left feeling exhausted, confused, and out of control. But ask yourself, why would you give away that kind of power? You are the gatekeeper of your emotions. You decide who gets to enter, which words are worth receiving, and which situations deserve your energy. The same event can either become a storm or just a passing breath, depending on your awareness. When a wave of emotion rises within you, don't immediately look outward. Turn inward. Ask yourself, why is this stirring something in me? Sometimes, the person in front of you is just a trigger. The real cause lies within, a wound, a fear, or an unspoken expectation. And here lies your true power. If the root is within, healing can begin from within. You cannot control the world, but you can master your inner world. That's where peace begins, and where it stays. Your reaction is your responsibility, not your partner's, not your enemy's, not a stranger's. Only you, living inside your own body, are responsible for protecting your peace. No one else can carry that weight for you. You don't need to harden yourself to protect your peace. In fact, the stronger you are on the inside, the gentler you can be on the outside. Inner strength allows you to listen without being pulled, to observe without being consumed, and to respond with wisdom instead of reacting from pain. This is not suppression, it's transformation. Suppression is pushing your emotions down and pretending they're not there. Transformation is seeing them clearly, facing them honestly, and then choosing a different response. Every time you choose calm over an emotional outburst, you're laying a stronger foundation within yourself. You're no longer blaming others for your emotional state. No more saying, "She made me angry," or "They drove me crazy." These statements only weaken you. They hand over your power and pull you into a trap built by other people's emotions. The truth, although uncomfortable, is this: your emotions are your responsibility. No one else lives inside your body. No one else feels what you feel. And therefore, no one else should have the authority to govern your emotional world. There is a quiet kind of strength, unshakable and humble, that doesn't need to shout to be heard. It's like a mountain in the storm, standing tall and unmoved. True power comes from presence, from the ability to remain grounded no matter what someone says or does around you. The world will always have challenges. People will try to test you, provoke you, and drag you into chaos. But you don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to yell to be noticed. You only need to remain still, steady, and aware. And from that grounded place, you will influence not by force, but by example. This isn't avoidance. It is wisdom. Because to remain at peace in a noisy world is one of the greatest victories you can ever claim. Your breath is the bridge between your body and your mind. Every emotion you feel, anger, anxiety, fear, begins with a shift in breath. When you're angry, your breath speeds up. When you're anxious, it becomes shallow and uneven. When you're afraid, you might even hold your breath without noticing. So if you want to return to calmness, begin with the breath. When someone says something that sets your anger on fire, your instinct may be to respond immediately. But instinct is not always intelligence. The wise do not rush. They observe. They notice the tension rising in their shoulders, the heat gathering in the chest, the shortness of breath. And most importantly, they notice the breath. That's the signal to return home to yourself. Inhale deeply through your nose. Feel the air travel down to your belly. Exhale slowly through your mouth. Let the breath carry away the tension. Each breath is a quiet reminder. You are here. You have a choice. No one can force you to react. No one can compel you to be angry. To control the breath is to control emotion. And when you can regulate your emotions, you regain control over the outcome. Some people may appear powerful, loud, forceful, commanding, but beneath the surface, their inner world is in chaos. True strength is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It is a steady flame burning within the chest, quiet, focused, and unshakable. Every time you choose to breathe instead of shouting, you are retraining your nervous system. You are reestablishing inner safety. You don't need a quiet room or a meditation bell. All you need is a single moment of awareness and a conscious breath. Breath is the gentlest weapon, yet the most powerful. Not to attack others, but to anchor yourself when your heart wants to scream. When you choose to breathe instead of react, you don't just save your peace. You shift the energy of the entire room. And that is true power. Not winning the argument, but refusing to let the storm outside steal the stillness within. The energy you allow into your space shapes the quality of your life. In a world full of noise, arguments, and emotional turbulence, Sometimes the most sacred act is simply this: to protect the purity of your inner world. But not everyone knows how to do that. Many people unconsciously absorb the negative energy of others. A careless comment leaves them feeling down the entire day. A stranger's anger disrupts their sleep. A cold glance from someone unsettles their entire inner balance. This is not empathy. It's permission. You are unconsciously opening the door, letting others step in and rearrange your inner world. You are letting someone else's emotions rewrite who you are at your core. But you don't have to do that. You can choose to be a mirror, reflecting without absorbing. You can see the pain in someone's eyes without letting it nest in your heart. You can hear the anger in their voice without turning it into your inner war. To stay calm in the face of chaos, that is strength. Not everyone can do it. But when you can, you become a still point in the storm, a quiet space that others, perhaps without knowing why, feel safe standing near. You are not cold. You are discerning. You are not rejecting people. You are rejecting energies that don't serve your peace. And that is how you protect your core values. No one gets to contaminate the sacred space within you unless you invite them in. Stillness is often misunderstood. People think that when you are silent, when you choose not to react, it's because you're weak. They believe you're avoiding, afraid, or lacking the courage to face conflict. But that belief is an illusion, born from ego and fear. True stillness is not the absence of emotion, but the presence of inner power. It is a conscious decision, not to be pulled into every emotional storm others bring your way. Stillness is the calm eye in the center of the hurricane. It's the tree that doesn't fall when the winds blow, because it knows its roots. Imagine a lake in the early morning. Its surface is like glass, smooth, undisturbed. Then a single pebble drops in, and the water ripples. Your mind is the same. When it's still, you see clearly. But when you let emotions throw stones into your calm, the ripples distort everything. You no longer see the truth. You see the chaos created by your reaction. People may try to provoke you, but you don't have to play their game. When you hold your stillness, you don't lose. You win without ever needing to fight. True strength doesn't need to raise its voice. It doesn't need fists or fury to feel powerful. It doesn't depend on approval or external control. It comes from within, from self-mastery. And this kind of strength is not gifted. It's trained. Trained every time you choose to stay calm rather than explode. Trained every time you pause to see clearly instead of reacting blindly. You're not silent because you're afraid. You're silent because you've awakened. Peace doesn't come when life gets easier. It comes when you build the discipline to stay steady, even when life is anything but easy. And to do that, you need inner discipline. Discipline in this context is not harshness or self-denial. It's the gentle but firm commitment to return to yourself again and again, until stillness becomes second nature. Most people live in reaction mode. A word triggers their anger. A glance shakes their confidence. A criticism makes them want to scream. They're not truly living. They're being controlled. But a person with inner discipline is different. They don't rush to retaliate. They pause. They observe the tightening in the chest, the shortness of breath, the racing heart. And in that pause, they choose. And that's what real freedom looks like. You won't always stay calm, but every time you return to yourself, you're training. Every time you choose not to react, though every part of you wants to, you're laying the foundation of your strength. Discipline doesn't make you rigid. It makes you resilient. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It's not about suppression. It's about responding with awareness, not wounds. Every day, life offers you moments to practice this. Someone says something offensive. A plan falls apart. An unexpected insult comes your way. Each of these is your internal gym. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you are mastering not the world, but yourself. And that is the highest victory, one with no audience, but that sets you truly free. Much of the suffering you carry was never yours to begin with. It came from someone else's words, a cold glance, a harsh tone, and suddenly you felt attacked, wounded, disrespected, pulled into emotional chaos. But if you look deeper, you'll see their behavior wasn't about you. It was a reflection of them. A hurt person often hurts others. A lost person spreads confusion. Someone carrying unhealed pain unconsciously seeks to make others feel what they cannot process themselves. Their anger is not because of you. It is the storm screaming inside of them. You just happen to be standing nearby. But here's the truth. You have a choice. You can step into that storm, or you can stay rooted, still, unmoved. When you understand this, you stop seeing yourself as a victim. You no longer ask, why are they doing this to me? You begin to ask, what's hurting so deeply within them that they're acting this way? You shift from blame to understanding, from reaction to observation, from being swept away to staying grounded. This isn't avoidance, it's emotional maturity. You don't have to catch every arrow flying your way. You don't have to tense up for every emotional punch. Some things are better left to fly past, never touching your skin. And when you master that, you not only protect your peace, you become a living example to others that there is another way to live, a way that stays soft without collapsing, a way that forgives without forgetting yourself, a way that stands strong without needing to strike back. You are not here to carry everyone's pain, but you can choose to keep your heart clear, even in a world covered in dust. In every room, there is always a conversation happening beyond the words. It's the conversation of energy, of presence, of silent impressions, of unspoken resonance. You might say nothing, yet the way you are there is felt deeply by those around you. When you carry peace within, you don't need to raise your voice to prove your point. You don't need to argue to earn respect. Your silence, if it is true silence, speaks louder than any explanation. Your presence becomes an invitation, not a demand, not a confrontation, just a still space that gently invites others to soften themselves. They may not understand why, but beside you, they instinctively lower their guard. They become less defensive, less loud, less reactive. They feel safe, not because of what you say, but because of what you emanate. This is the deepest kind of influence. You don't change others through instruction, but through the energy you bring into the room. And that influence only arises when your peace is real, not a mask, not a pretend calm that hides inner turmoil. True stillness can't be faked. To cultivate it, you must live it. You must practice it. Over and over, in silence and solitude, in everyday tension and sudden conflict. You train yourself not to react, not to absorb negativity, not to be drawn into chaos. You don't need to win every situation. You don't need to have the last word. You only need to be present, grounded, gentle, and clear. And that groundedness becomes your unspoken teaching. It becomes a quiet beacon others will feel, even if they never name it. So become the calmest person in the room, not to dominate, but to remind others. We don't have to lose ourselves to survive this world. Stillness is often misunderstood. People think that when you stay silent, when you don't react, it must be because you're weak. They assume you're avoiding, afraid, or too fragile to stand your ground. But that's a distortion, born from ego and fear. True stillness is not the absence of emotion. It's the full presence of power. It's a conscious choice to not be dragged into every emotional storm others bring. It's the eye of the hurricane, the unmoving tree standing through wild winds, needing no dramatic sway to prove it's alive. Imagine a lake at dawn, perfectly still like glass. The moment a pebble drops in, ripples rush outward. Your mind is the same. When still, you see clearly. But when stirred by reactions, by tossed emotions, the clarity disappears. All you see is the chaos you allowed to be created inside yourself. Yes, people will provoke you. They will throw pebbles, but you don't have to jump into their game. When you hold your stillness, you don't lose. You win without having to fight. True power doesn't need shouting. It doesn't rely on control, praise, or defense. It comes from within, from self-mastery. And no one can hand you that strength. It's forged each time you choose stillness over fury, each time you choose clarity over impulse, each time you see what's happening, and still you choose peace. You don't stay silent out of fear. You stay silent because you've awakened, because you understand. Peace doesn't come from silencing the world outside. It comes from having the discipline not to be swept away by every wave inside. Discipline, not the rigid kind that cages you, but the sacred kind that brings you home to yourself. Again and again, until stillness becomes your second nature. Most people live in a constant state of reactivity. One careless word makes them angry. One cold glance causes them to doubt themselves. One harsh criticism sends them spiraling into emotional chaos. They are not truly living, they are being controlled. But those with inner discipline are different. They do not rush to respond. They take a breath. They notice the tightness in their chest, the shallowness of breath, the racing pulse, and they become aware. It is in that pause between stimulus and reaction that freedom lives. And in that pause, they choose. Not every moment will be calm. You won't always respond perfectly. But every time you return to yourself, every time you choose not to react, even when you want to, you are building something strong and sacred within you. Discipline doesn't make you rigid, it makes you resilient. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about choosing your response from awareness, not from old wounds. Every day offers countless opportunities to practice this. Someone irritates you. A situation doesn't go your way. A sudden verbal attack hits you out of nowhere. See these moments as the inner gym. Each time you remain calm, you are mastering not the world, but yourself. And that is the highest victory. A victory with no audience, but one that brings true freedom. A great deal of your suffering doesn't come from what people do to you, but from how you interpret it as something personal. When someone gets angry, criticizes, insults, or tries to provoke you, your first instinct might be to feel attacked. You may feel disrespected, diminished, or emotionally wounded. But in truth, It has nothing to do with you. A person's behavior is a mirror of their internal state, not a measure of your worth. They might be hurt, lost, or overwhelmed by their own life, and you may have just happened to be the closest mirror reflecting their chaos outward. Your calmness irritates them. Your silence unsettles them. Because they haven't learned to heal, they instinctively try to pull you into their pain. But you have a choice. You don't have to join. Not because you're indifferent, but because you understand. Each person is responsible for the energy they carry. You don't need to absorb every emotion someone throws at you. You don't need to argue, to defend, or to fix anyone. You are not a dumping ground for unresolved emotions. You are the guardian of your clarity, your peace. And when you hold on to that, you're not just protecting yourself, you're reminding others, even if silently, there is another way to live, a way that doesn't require you to lose your inner purity in order to respond to outer chaos. They may not understand, they may keep shouting, but you remain still, not because you're numb, but because you've learned not to let someone else define you by the storm inside them. You are not here to heal every storm. You are here to be the sky. In a world full of people lost in turmoil, the most precious thing isn't to win every argument. It's to remain yourself when others have lost themselves.